Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Rashid Mubarak, your English teacher, and I will teach you English using our online teaching setup. First of all, I would like to congratulate you all for being promoted to the next class. But on the other hand, this is very unfortunate that schools and classes have been suspended. We wish for the classes to resume soon. School management has arranged for online lectures, and today is my first lecture with you. So before we start, there are some general instructions that you must have heard and read before at the start of other lectures. So as a reminder, let's go through these instructions once again. First of all, mark your attendance by clicking the link of the attendance website in the description box below. You have to mark your attendance till your first lecture, and it will be closed after the end of the first lecture. Keep your books, copies, pencils, eraser, all the things related to your subject to note down your lecture, just like you do in your classroom. If you do have any assignment, then submit your assignment in your class WhatsApp group. There are class WhatsApp groups for your respective classes, and you will be given assignments as far as English is concerned. You will submit your assignments in your class WhatsApp groups, and your teacher will check it and then return it to you. Last instruction: at the end of each lecture, you can ask questions related to your topic from your teacher in the WhatsApp group. Your teacher will give assignment via class WhatsApp group. So for example, I am teaching you first lesson today. So if you have any questions, you can ask those questions using the WhatsApp groups. Okay, let's move ahead. So the first topic that we are going to study today is a poem, Mother to Son. If you open your comprehension books, textbooks, we also call them textbooks. So come to page number 2, as I have it opened in front of me. Page number 2, title of the poem is Mother to Son, and it's written by Langston Hughes. Before moving ahead, we should be very well aware of the objectives, that what are we going to learn today, what are we going to study today. So first of all, we will know how to read a poem, listening practice, reading and understanding, enhance the vocabulary. So as you do it in the classroom, all of you know that what is the first thing that we do is we know how to read or pronounce the difficult words, and then to know the meaning of the difficult words along with their pronunciation. Let's move ahead. First of all, we all must know what a poem is. So it's a literary work in which the expression of feeling it's a literary work in which expressions of feelings and ideas is given intensity by the use of distinctive style and rhythm. Poems collectively or as a genre of literature. So poems are basically representing a basic theme, whatever the writer has in his mind, through a rhythmical way, just like a music. So when the reader reads it, he finds it very interesting. So it's different from the other forms of or other genres of literature like novel, plays and dramas. Next is the introduction of the poet. You can find a detailed introduction in your book, page number 3. Here are a few headlines in this slide. Langston Hughes, he was born in 1902 and died in 1961. He was an American novelist and a short story writer. What is a novel? All of you must be aware of that. It is a long story about imaginary characters. And on the other hand, short stories are a fully developed themes. Short stories have a fully developed theme, but they are shorter than the novel. So Hughes puts himself in place of mother speaking to her son. In this very poem, Hughes is presenting before you a monologue. Monologue, what is a monologue? Mono means one and log is language or speech. Just like you know the word dialogue. Di means a speech between two people. When two people are speaking to one another, it's dialogue, and when only one person is speaking, it is called monologue. So in this poem, the writer Langston Hughes is speaking as a mother to his son, and he uses the staircase to represent the hardships of life. When we will go through the poem, when we will read the poem, you will know this very much theme in detail. And if you look at page number 3, you will find a detailed introduction of the poet, and I'm going to read it. Langston Hughes was born in 1902 and died in 1967. He was an American novelist, playwright, and a short story writer. Hughes also wrote columns for newspapers and is perhaps the best known for his poetry, jazz poetry, which is all about rhythm and improvisation, and which employs the use of repetitive phrases just like jazz music. Though his uplifting poems, Hughes wished to show that his people, African Americans, he was basically an African American, his ancestors, or actually he belonged to Africa, but later on he must have moved to America as an American national, were valuable and had much to offer the country. His poetry reflects the diversity of African Americans within the USA and emphasizes their pride and identity. In this poem, Hughes puts himself in the place of a mother speaking to her son with words of encouragement. The poem was written in 1922, so this was a brief introduction of the writer and the poem as well. So let's come to the proceedings as we usually do in our classroom. The first thing that we do is to know the pronunciation, the right pronunciation of the difficult words and their meanings as well. And this poem is basically written by an Afro-American poet, so he has used slang in it. So slang is a kind of unconventional English which includes words or vocabulary that is used locally by the people. So you must have seen this in the movies that it is very difficult to understand the black people when they are speaking English. So this is somewhat similar. So these words, hard words, will help you out to understand the pronunciation and the meanings of the difficult words. So first word is crystal. So this is not very difficult. Most of you will be familiar with this word. Crystal, it means clear. Next word, honey. Dear, darling, sweetie. Honey is something to eat that is very sweet, but here in this poem it is used as a relation, a very dear one, darling or sweetie. Sit down, or stop. Splinters, sharp pieces of wood, as you have seen on a furniture that is very, very old, and there are splinters coming out of that wood. These are the splinters. Tacks, short nails. Tacks, this is pronounced as tacks. Short nails, it means. Next, the slang word ain't, has not, am not. Is also a slang word. I have or I am is the actual meaning. Kinda is it's just like kind of, short form of kind of, kinda. A climbing. So actually, when we speak the words ending with ing, in actual pronunciation or phonetics, we don't pronounce the last G. Though, as being Pakistanis or second language speakers, we do use the G word at the end of the word, but basically it is not spoken. So that's why he has omitted it in the poem. A climbing, just like the word climbing. Landings, again G is missing here. Landings, so landing, the flat area without steps. When wherever you have seen steps, there are some flat areas for rest. So they are called landings. Now I will read the poem once. All of you must read it after me with correct pronunciation, and at home you are required to read it again and again, but here as a model I'm going to read this poem before you. So all of you must follow me, keeping your books before you, in front of you, page number 2. Well, son, I'll tell you, keep in mind, this is a mother talking to his son. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor bare. But all the time I's been a climbing on, and reaching landings, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark, where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back, don't you set down on the steps, 'cause you finds it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still going, honey. I's still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. So this is the end of the poem. I'm going to read it again. Listen to me very carefully. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been a climbing on, and reaching landings, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark, where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back, don't you set down on the steps, 'cause you find it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now, for I's still going, honey. I's still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. So after the reading of the poem, I will give you a brief introduction to the metaphors. Basically, this poem is very much a metaphor representing the difficulties of life in the form of stairs. So a metaphor is a figure of speech that directly refers to one thing by mentioning another. And in this poem, the stairs are actually representing the hardships of life. So this is what metaphor is, that we talk about one thing and actually it is representing another thing in our life. So this I will explain it to you in the next lecture, when I will explain the poem word by word. Moving ahead, there is a brief introduction to the theme of the poem as well. The poem is about a mother giving advice to her son about the challenges of life. So just like your mother must have been giving you different instructions or advices every day that we usually don't put an ear to. So this is just like an advice that a mother is giving to his son, and she says to him, it also shows how sometimes life becomes too heavy, but a person should never give up. So whenever you find life difficult, we should never give up. Throughout the poem, she instructs him to continue struggle with patience and hope. So this is the basic theme of the poem. And now comes your homework. After going through the poem, after reading the poem, you will read, after listening to me reading the poem, you will try to follow me, follow my pronunciation, and you will read the poem 5 times at least. And those with the weaker pronunciation or weaker reading skills, they must read it more than this. And definitely you will learn all the hard meanings, hard words with their meanings, so that it will increase your vocabulary. Dear students, this is the end of the lecture, and if you have any questions related to this lecture, you can write them down in your WhatsApp groups, and your respective teachers will answer those questions. And thank you very much for watching and learning. Thank you.